welcome to Align with Laina. I am so excited that I have the privilege of interviewing ordinary people who, just like me, just like you, are going through spiritual awakenings. Every single one of us that experiences a desire to want to know another way of doing life, another way of experiencing true happiness. Those of us who have gotten tired of chasing things outside of ourselves to make us feel whole, happy, peaceful. When we get tired of the chase because we realize that we've acquired a lot of things and they still don't make us happy, whole, and peaceful, we begin to experience a shift. We begin to want to discover what is the true source of happiness? What is the true source of everlasting peace? So this entire program, Align with Laina, is to help you become aware that there are many, many ways, many, many paths that will all lead us to the exact same thing. And that's a return inside where we will know the truth of ourselves so that we can quit chasing for it outside of ourselves. And today I am so excited because I get to interview somebody who is near and dear to my heart. Her name is Maria Janos, and I have met her in my Course in Miracles class that I teach at Unity on Tuesday nights. And it is, I just got a ding that I thought I had turned off. I love how technology, you think you turn things off, but messages still come through. Kind of like how it happens with Source. There they go. Everybody's going to call me now. But anyway, so let me introduce you to this amazing woman and let's hear her story. So Maria, thank you so much for joining me today and for being a part of this program, because your process is going to touch somebody. They're going to hear something that you say that is going to help them make more sense of their own journey. And in other ways, you're going to inspire people who may not have experienced anything like what you've experienced. But in your sharing, some new seeds are going to get planted. So first of all, thank you for being here. And tell me, what was the moment that you realized that there had to be another way for you? You were making that shift where you realized your happiness just wasn't outside of you anymore. When was that?
Oh, hi. So I just want to say thank you. I'm really excited for being here. And so looking back on my journey, I feel like I've had a lot of kind of different levels of realization that I am more than just, physical body and, things that appear outside of me, is that's what we're supposed to achieve and get and strive for. And I think my journey began when my father gave me a book by Dale Carnegie, and it's called How to Influence People, Friends, that one, the very famous one. And I think the original desire for me was to kind of get not better, but perfect as a human being. Back then, I didn't know that I was.
How old were you when your dad gave you?
12. I was 12, and I read that book, and I was still living in Russia at that time. I was in Russian language. I still remember like sentence by sentence because I read that book like so many times. But I think that was my first introduction to like kind of human growth, like being better, and there's like more to just to life than struggling, and we have the power to create our reality. But back then I didn't realize it was different. It was real, like reality, that the physical reality. And so that's the way it began. And then years later, after I graduated college and I got a job, I moved to Maryland and I got a job. And within like 3 months, I realized that, wow, this is, I'm 24 years old, and now I have to, sit here for the next, 40 years doing business. And it's not that I didn't like the job. It was just the idea of like working in this kind of like rat race situation. There was something in me that was saying that this is not it. And I happened to know someone who was, at that point, we were dating with this guy who was very on his spiritual journey, he was much more spiritual, and he knew kind of the truth of who he was. And I happened to, he basically introduced me to other teaching. And the first book that I read that took it from the physical human existence to the next level of that there's more to life, and we are not just this human beings, but we spirit that are having this human experience, was Stuart Wilde, and the book was called The Force. And it's a small book, and he's an incredibly entertaining author. Like, I remember just reading and laughing because it was just, everything was so like funny, because the way he explains the ego and this things that we get tricked into and we believe these things, it's just truly hilarious. And so that's kind of how it began. And this was, I don't know, 15 years ago. And so that's kind of, I from there was a lot of like very many ups and downs in terms of I wouldn't do anything for many years. I would get sidetracked in an ego world, and I would forget that seeking my inner world was more important than getting another job, or making more money, or spending your time like, I don't know, acquiring things. So, and then so that was that. And then just, it was during that time I still continued reading a lot of stuff, and I think I was getting a lot of intellectual knowledge.
Yes.
And a part of me really knew that what I was reading is true, but I didn't know how to take it to the inner, like from the head to the heart, so to speak. And so I also knew about A Course in Miracles book manual, and I actually had one for over 10 years, and I tried to read it a few times, and I never really got past page 6, because it was just very, on your own, it's a little bit challenging to understand. And so I was, by divine intervention, as always, I was led to come to your class last summer. And as soon as within like, I don't know, like 2 minutes, I knew that everything that I have been doing up till this point, like literally led me to that place. And that's it. And I really think the cool thing about like reading all that stuff, I think it took me, everything just made sense so fast for me, just because I had so much information. I mean, I'm like insanely crazy reader. I really read, I don't even know, like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds books in that realm. And so, yes, so that's kind of my journey from there to here.
Yeah. So from 24 to now, how many years is that you've been studying? 16. That's a lot of years of gathering, 15 years or so. I know the last year you've been taking it from the head to the heart. That's a lot of years of gathering information. And what people don't understand on this journey is that we have to prepare the mind first. We have to have information in our head before we can shift down to the heart, because the heart can open up and it can feel love, but without that mind having been trained, it's really very challenging for people who become very loving to undo their ideas of their human self so that they can fully embrace that divine love that is flowing through them. So let's talk a little bit about, let's make a distinction between when you came to my class and you had acquired knowledge, but even before that, you were living your life like everybody else does. An ordinary person. You got trained on how to be in the world. You got trained on what to study, what to prepare for when you grew up. Tell me, what was life like for you before you began to really get, not just intellectualizing it, but really get that you are more, that there's more to you, that you are a divine being, that you're not just this human doing. So talk a little bit about what was life like then that you don't want to go back to.
Right. Yes. I think it's about just doing meaningless things. about things that don't inspire me or move me, and doing them only because someone else said do it, or because that's what your family or your society says, or like, yeah, the culture, I guess. I don't know. It was just doing those things that, like, from not that you're not driven or moved by the inner. And I think that was a big thing for me, because since being Russian, and I don't know, I can speak all Russians, but me personally, I think that we're very being told what to do. So I think my conformity to the outside world and the authority figures, whether it's parents, teachers, grandparents, were very high, I would say. And I feel like I was losing myself in that, and doing things not for other people, but like just because I was supposed to do them, that it just didn't feel authentic to me. I guess that was the biggest thing. Like, I didn't know how to be authentic, because I just didn't know how to stop. I guess I didn't know why I was experiencing that, but I didn't know how to start being authentic without, rocking the boat.
Share some of the things that you were doing that you felt you couldn't be your authentic self, that conditioning that was part of the process that you were going through, that was helping you see that there was something missing. What were the doing things?
Sure. Like college. I went to college. The major that the college that was chosen for me, I didn't choose that college. It was chosen by my parents, for example. Okay. And granted, I was 17. I didn't really know anything. I was not, like, they decided that where you go. Otherwise, you're just going to hang out with your friends all day, sitting on a park bench somewhere, whatever. So it was kind of like those things. Then the job, then you got to get a better job. Then you got to get a car. Then you got to get a house. And I love my house. Don't get me wrong. It's all those things are great. It's just, there's a subtle shift, though, in how you get in these things and what these things are. I don't know. The value that you put on them, I guess.
Yeah. So, and I totally can relate, because I too was raised to believe that I had a role as a woman, that I had to become a mother, that I had to go to school and get a degree, that I had to go get a job, that I had to contribute to the household, or that I should find a husband who could take care of all the expenses, and I could be a stay-at-home mom, which was really my preference, because it's what I saw growing up in a Latin country. Usually the moms didn't work. My mom did, but she was an entrepreneur, so it never felt like she was really working, because she was always around the house. She worked from the home. But yes, I got to the US, and all of a sudden you got to get educated, you got to get a job, you got to get the house, you got to buy, you got to acquire, you got to collect all of these things, and then get approval from everybody else for the things that I was collecting and gathering and acquiring and achieving. And like you said, that wasn't my authentic self. I didn't know it at the time, because you didn't know at the time that wasn't your authentic self. You were just more like a robot, programmed to do these things, to execute. Mm-hmm. So you started at 24 being exposed to these things. What begins to happen in your mind as you begin to realize that there is this whole nother way? Because for me, the transition was gradual. Mm-hmm. It wasn't, I did have moments of insights that I went, oh my gosh, it could really be different. Wow. Those were a few, but it was more of a gradual process. How was it like for you to begin to see that you really could do it differently?
Yes, no, it happened overnight. Seriously, from that one class that I took, with that first Course in Miracles class, it all came.
Oh, you mean now? I'm talking about at 24.
Oh, right. Yes. No, I think it was more it started that I was literally sitting at my desk at work, not liking what I was doing, and I was thinking, wow, this is totally blows that I have to do this forever and ever. This just totally lame. Yeah. And And I remember not like in the morning I had to get ready and drive to the office, and it was in Baltimore, so there was a lot of traffic, and I had to sit in traffic, and I was like, wow, is this like what life's supposed to look like? This is just no way. And I think that's what led to the next step.
Okay. And then you begin to get exposed to all of these other things, and you begin to realize that you want more. So,
Correct.
so it was about 14, 15 years before you came to that Course in Miracles class. So what were you changing? What was shifting in you as you were beginning to educate your mind, as you were beginning to, through all of the books that you were reading, all of the things that you were realizing? Take us through that 15-year. What gradually changed? And then let's talk about that class.
Yes. Okay. So I think that becoming more aware, there's a distinct, I would like to say there's an important piece. There was a huge distinction between reading all those books and living from your still and physical way versus the Course in Miracles way. And I don't want to go there right now, but so reading all these other books, they allowed me to, for example, be more patient, or to become like not to get so bogged down by things, don't sweat the small stuff. I think that one of the important programs that I heard by Wayne Dyer was the no limit people, how to be a no limit person. He doesn't talk about A Course in Miracles, but a lot of principles are that. And so it was just, I didn't really know what was the kind of like that current that was underneath, right? All these teachings, I didn't know what they were. Like I never got that deep, but on the surface, I would not get, things wouldn't bother me. I wouldn't get, I don't know, like I wasn't just as, I wouldn't like judge as much, but I still was.
Yeah.
The thing, all these things you're doing, like I was making progress like around many areas of my life, but it just didn't feel like it was all the way or something.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, it's just hard to explain. It's just, it became such a normal part of my life that I don't really remember another way. Like I don't know, it's just so. But it's just on human level. It was just on very physical plane. I was making improvements in my life.
And that's a great distinction, because that is where everybody will begin to make the shifts. It's going to be on the human plane. We begin to change how we're behaving. We begin to realize that we could do it differently. And you are so correct. With the 12 years that I've been coaching and teaching, I've had enough experience now to see patterns. And it is, we begin to hear this spiritual information. We begin to realize that not only is it true, but it is possible that it can be something we can actually achieve one day. Like patience, we know, oh yeah, we could achieve that. And then we got to put it into practice into our lives. But the practice part takes quite a bit of discipline. So your mind gets trained in terms of having a lot of information in it. So maybe more so than trained is you're gathering all of that information. It's like you're getting new programming in your mind, new ways of operating. But then you come to the Course in Miracles class. And as you know, I love A Course in Miracles because it's been transformational for me. And I've been a student of it maybe 6 years, and a teacher of it for the last 4. And tell me, what happened for you in that class when you're hearing these teachings, and what happened to you? Because it's been fascinating watching you. It's just such a joy to see you take it all in and apply it.
Yes, there was one thing I heard, and I knew internally that I am more than my human, my body, the physical stuff, that I am truly the essence of God, that God expressed himself as me.
Yeah.
And I felt I felt like I knew, even though it was a very like the subtle knowing. But I also want to say this one thing. The reason why I think I also had this, because I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old girls who I have been watching for 5 years, being these extraordinary, these spirits. There are just like, and I think that my inner divinity, like me, my my God within me was recognizing, wow, like I think I am that too. Where is it? Like I want to like feel that. Like I want to be one with that again, because I was like remembering seeing them on daily basis. I knew that was something to it. So I think there was also super instrument, like
Oh, yes, absolutely.
because I was just recognizing it in them, and I wanted to feel that. And so go into the class, because the way you explain it and the way it kind of sounds on such a in regular words that we can understand, right? It just took it home for me that time first, and I knew that this is where the work is next.
And you've been coming, regularly. You hardly ever miss one of our.
Went for Halloween.
Yes.
I had to go do Halloween trick or treating.
So talk a little bit about what is it that through the consistency of coming to the classes that you are able to really receive, that is taking all of that learning that you did and begin to apply it and have it make sense. Because yes, we have it intellectually, but what is the process? Walk us through the transformation that's been taking place in you as you take the Course in Miracles teachings, which for me are the most profound I have found anywhere. Anywhere in my 16 years on this journey, I have not found anything that is as clear and concise about exactly how it is that we have fallen into this illusion that we're just human doings and totally, completely lost our ability to tap into, to remember that we're actually spirit and having a physical experience. So walk us through that.
So you mean like how I am today, or how was the process of
the process of the last 5 or 6 months since you started participating in the Course in Miracles and have been taking in and practicing this in your own life? I mean, you grew up Russian, in Russian. You told me that there wasn't a whole lot of religion, a whole lot of God, and now you're studying about God.
Yes, it's interesting, because I've actually been thinking for the last few days is that yes, we Russian, they were not religious. However, we really had a very belief that God is outside of us. A very angry guy with a long beard sitting in a cloud, and he will punish you if you don't do the right thing. Right?
I got that too in the Caribbean.
I really think that I really was put that in my mind a lot, and it's only actually now coming up. I think I might have like plugged that out, but I think I lived from that. I think I was really fearful of God, and honestly, I think in the beginning of the course, even though one part of me knew the truth, the other part of me, I think I was a little scared there, because I was like, I mean, couple of things, like, am I truly that magnificent? There's just no way. I'm like not that good. So I had to kind of work with that and truly, really believe that I am that, and that I deserve to be happy and have joy and peace, and not being sidetracked by, like you say, bamboozle by our ego into all this, stuff that is not even really important. And it's not even that it's not important. It really makes us not to enjoy our life, right? We get angry at our friends. We judge people. We judge whatever. I don't know what's going out there in the world. And instead of like coming to it from a different perspective.
Yes. and something that you were saying that is so perfect. So let me tie these two things together. You have these children in your house. You've got a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old who are the pure expression of God. They are happy, expressed. They are sharing who they are. And, those girls are amazing because they're showing you our true essence. And now you're coming to A Course in Miracles and you're reading that your true essence is actually exactly like your little girls are expressing themselves. No boundaries, no barriers, an imagination that is completely connected to something internally moving them. So we start reading in A Course in Miracles that our purpose is to be happy. And you as the adult know, well, I get unhappy when these girls don't behave. I get unhappy when my husband does whatever. I get unhappy when, the bills come in and there's not enough money or whatever the case might be. So here you're hearing that you're supposed to be happy, that's our purpose according to A Course in Miracles. God created us for happiness. We're going to talk about that in a second, why that is. And you've got these little happy little girls, and then here you are, mama, not so happy all the time.
Totally.
How did you reconcile all of that?
Yeah, they don't really care about bills coming in,
They don't.
No, they don't. Nor do they care about what college they're gonna go into or whatever. Or they don't even care if they're gonna go to preschool today or not. They'd rather stay home and play all day. So yeah, so I think the just seeing them, definitely seeing them the way they are was a step in the right direction for me, and choosing acceptance in situations, and literally talking your, like, choosing a different thought in whatever transpires is the work. I don't want to say I'm doing it all the time. That's why I say it's the work, because that's what
Yes, it is the work. It's the work of the journey, and the Course is very clear. We're always choosing again. We're always choosing to come from love instead of fear, to come from our divine essence instead of just our human self, to think like God instead of the ego. But you having those girls is giving you the opportunity to practice what you're learning, because you also have discovered that it's at that young age that we begin to become conditioned and programmed to think like our parents think, to think like society thinks. And we become rewarded when we begin to follow mommy and daddy and teacher and preacher and government, and we begin to not listen to ourselves. And today's children, because we're in a totally, completely energetic pattern right now, we are being called to awaken as a humanity, whether we like it or not. It's happening. So your children are the generation that they're not going to be willing to follow what mommy and daddy say and do, because they're more connected to their inner selves. But as you're looking at your children, you're having to do your own work. You're having to see how you disconnected, because the Course is very clear. Until we know how we disconnect from our true essence and begin to create an ego, we don't know how to return back to our essence. So how, in watching your daughters, have you been able to apply the teachings to do your own inner healing? Because the discomfort of this journey of awakening is always recognizing how we, and people don't like to hear this, but you know that this is the truth, how we let ourselves be trained out of our divinity. So the journey is a journey of responsibility to come back to acknowledging our divinity. So how, take me through, as you're learning about the Course, you're learning the teachings, the practices, how are you observing your children and doing your own personal healing?
Let me think for that for a second. Right. They're just pure joy in pretty much all the time. And the only time they get unhappy when there's some sort of like, you tell them to do something, and they have to do something, or some kind of expectations are happening. And I think it's just seeing them to just being and just transitioning from, just their existence is just so inspiring, that I just want to be like that. I don't know. I don't know how to. It just happens so naturally for me. Like I choose a different. Like I choose to be more like them, right? By just seeing them and how they are, and also what I noticed that the other thing I want to say is that they, like you said, they mirror us, and that is very true. Because if I get sidetracked by the ego, and if I have to go somewhere, and I try to get them ready and they're not listening, I would raise my voice or whatever. I don't do that very often now, but I used to, and that's kind of was one of the big reasons. And another reason I was like, oh my god, this is just not acceptable. And so the next day, my older one would treat my younger one the same way. And so I had a chance to see, it's like a mirror. I was like, oh my God, she just learned this, a few days ago. Like their motivation for me to change my ways was very, very hard. Like I really needed this, because I want to show up as a better parent. And I want to be a role model, and I can't be a role model when I am, getting upset or judged. So, this ego stuff, whatever. So yes, so it was kind of like two-way street there.
Yeah, but we're always being a role model, and we're going to be a role model as an expression of our divine self, a role model that is aligned with the truth of who we are, or we're going to be a role model of a disconnected self, of a self that is operating from the ego, that is going to seek to control others, because that is how we got trained as children. To shift out of our divinity was because our parents wanted to control our behavior. They wanted us to be good. They wanted us to behave. They wanted us to get educated, to do well in the world. Our teachers wanted to make certain that we followed the rules and all of that. So you, because you've got these 3-year-old and 5-year-old daughters at home right now, you are beginning to realize that you have to change your ways. You have to become a conscious parent.
Huge. Yes, definitely.
So let's talk about what are the things that you have been able to discover through A Course in Miracles, and obviously you and I also do private coaching, and you've attended my workshops. But what are some of the things that you're beginning to realize that you have to shift, that you cannot do that the way your parents did it? Talk about that, and let's make it practical for those parents who are watching, or grandparents who are watching, to get some tips, some hints, some ideas about how do we shift into conscious parenting?
Yes, very simple. You got to show up as love.
Yeah.
Every moment, no matter what. No matter how much you don't like it, no matter how many appointments you have, no matter how many shoes they switched or how many socks they could not find. Like, really, I think for me, that was one of the biggest, like, to in whatever the moment, I mean, this is like a training ground all the time here, right? Because they're so young, and they need stuff. And when they get upset or they don't want to do whatever it is, that I ask them to do, it's just, instead of just being authoritative parent, like I thought I really wanted to be. And honestly, a few years ago, I think I was very proud of that. And I actually had a conversation with my girlfriend, who comes from a very conscious parenting way. And I used to say, no, they're the little children. They just have to do what we tell them, and that's it. And I just want full compliance. I mean, this is controlling in me, and I knew that. Yeah. And so for me to letting go of that control and having things done my way, and bringing, it's not easy. For me personally, that's the work. To be able to bring that love in that moment, that is where the miracle happens. It just transforms transforms the moment. And in a lot of times I have to let go of agreements around an event, most likely. If it's, I gotta go somewhere, or you just have to give them, you just have to be loved.
Yeah, let's talk about, you touched on this, and it's so important because when we have little kids, and my daughter was already 14 years old when I started the spiritual journey, but I had two younger boys. So I parented both ways, unconscious and conscious. Unconscious with her because she was older, but conscious with the younger boys because there was a big age difference. It was 8 years. So let's talk about what unconscious parenting is, because people need to understand that. Unconscious parenting is to do to our children as was done unto us, or to attempt to do different than was done unto us because we didn't like what was done unto us. So either way, it's a reactionary pattern to way of parenting to our childhood, and it keeps us trying to raise our children today with past information. And it is always keeping us in a state of controlling. We want to control circumstances to either create exactly what happened to us if we liked it, or if we never questioned it, or to avoid what happened to us. So it's always based on the past. Now, conscious parenting means that we have to be conscious about what is happening right now. We are dealing with children now. Who am I now? And then we have to pay attention, become conscious of why am I reacting to what is happening right now? So there's a lot of moving pieces to conscious parenting, because the reaction lets you know that you're controlling. It lets you know that you're judging. It lets you know that you've left the now moment. So to become conscious, you got to come back to this moment and find out, why am I upset? And the upset is going to always go back to the past. So how are you managing all of that? Take us through an experience when you're having to see the unconscious patterns, the conscious patterns, and you're shifting because your mind has been trained to shift, like you said, to create the miracle.
Oh, it's I'm still working on this, but right now,
me too.
I ask the Holy Spirit for help.
Yes.
It's new to me.
Say that again. Say that again. That's really important.
That I ask the Holy Spirit for help.
Yes. And what does the Holy Spirit mean to you? Because I too had to begin to ask for help for something that I considered a higher consciousness than mine.
So I think I perceive Holy Spirit that's what I am inside, and that is my better me. That is my higher self with God. So yes. Holy Spirit is that for me, right? And so it has all the knowing already. And so to call on it, I call on it to give me, like, to tell me what to do in the moment, like right there. And just by that one, before I actually tell, this is literally I'm talking recent, like weeks recent, right? Because before I was engaging my mind and I was choosing thoughts, but intellectually.
Yeah.
Like, because I already had a lot of thoughts that I could choose. So I had like that good selection, and that helped, but not always. And also I felt like there was more. And so this is the next step that I'm practicing. And it's actually literally removing yourself from the situation and staying. It's funny because you remove yourself and yet you stay in the moment.
It's a paradox, but what you're removing is your lower self. This is that ego side of us that is operating with unconscious patterning from the past. So we're literally moving our past thinking, moving it aside, and allowing our now thoughts, our now awareness, our now beingness, which is our higher self. So we do have these two aspects to ourself, and our higher self is like the light inside of us. Our lower self, the ego, is that darkness that blocks it. So until we get to the place in the journey that you have, and it's so amazing to watch you do it. I mean, obviously, I love coaching people who see those two sides, because that's the work that I do, is teaching people how to choose between the two. But until you see that side, that is your ego side, and you feel your higher self, you don't realize that you're divided inside. You don't realize that you're conflicted, you're confused. That's why we're not in alignment. So let's talk a little bit about that. You're tapping into your higher self, and the Course in Miracles calls it the Holy Spirit. For me, it was Jesus, because I grew up Catholic. That felt familiar. Now calling it Holy Spirit, calling it my intuition, my higher knowing, the name doesn't matter, but there's a distinct feeling. When you tap into Holy Spirit, what does that feel like that is different than when you're operating from your unconscious ego mind?
To me, it feels like peace.
Yes.
And it just kind of just comes over in a way, and you just know. I don't know. You just know what to do or do nothing. I don't know. Like something else comes up, but in such a just loving and peaceful way.
Yeah, you have access to something else.
Yes.
So give us an example of something that happened in your life recently, very recently, where you were able to create that miracle and you shifted from an unconscious reaction to a conscious response to what was happening in the moment.
Sure, yes. I mean, I have many of those, but the one that comes to mind is that my 3-year-old is very fashionable. And so she has to have things, the way she dresses. She's been dressing herself for a few years now. So the way she dresses is, certain way. And she likes to wear, she has skirts. And she wears every different skirts for different occasions, right? So there's a day skirt, there's a night skirt, there's dinner skirt, there's playground skirt. It's all these skirts, right? And then it used to drive me crazy because, you want to go somewhere and you just don't want to spend 45 minutes picking the right skirt. And it goes to bed in a skirt, but every skirt could change also. So you really never know which one will be designated as this one particular skirt.
You don't know, but she does.
Oh, yeah, she got it all figured out. Yes, it's whatever calls her. And that's another beautiful thing. I just love to watch that. And so I really I get so impatient and I just, I get so controlling. I was just, pick the skirt. And I asked the Holy Spirit just to come and, take care of this. And I just don't, I'm done. And I have this peace, and it's just, I don't know, there's just almost some sort of whatever was causing the irritation, it's gone. And it's just, you just I sit there on the floor, however long it takes, and we pick the skirt. Some moments I would be, try to some cleverly way to redirect her. But in this particular moment, I don't, because I want her to go through this experience. And my irritation is gone. And my irritation always is triggered by, because I have to be somewhere, or, because my past experiences, my controlling nature, I don't want to say control the nature, by my belief that I have to control the situation and she doesn't know better and I'm the grown up and I know better. So I just most of the time I just let it, I took her, we talk about it and I get involved in the process.
Yeah. And that's a beautiful thing, is because when we become conscious and we become peaceful, we naturally want to be involved in the process because we're present to the process. You want to enjoy your daughter picking her skirt. You want to participate in the movement of consciousness that is happening inside of her. You're watching masters at play. And it's like so many teachings have told us that enlightenment happens when we return to being like a little child, because as a little child, we're moved from the inside. As an adult, we have been trained to react to the outside. This is why we want to control things, because we want things to be specifically done on the outside so that we can feel good about ourselves. But when we're kids, we feel good because we are good. We don't know, we haven't been conditioned to believe otherwise. And that innate knowingness of our inherent goodness is so present there that everything feels good. Everything is fun. You recognize that alignment is feeling good. But as an adult, feeling good is being in control, which always leaves us feeling bad. And it's crazy that we have bought into that, that the more we punish or the more restrictive we are, we got a sense of righteousness, that parent knows better righteousness. But that was never satisfying for me when I was an unconscious parent. For a little while, yes, but then afterwards I felt guilt.
Yes, you feel very guilty. I actually want to say that I had another example that I got. Yesterday, I heard my 5-year-old. She was in the bathroom, and oh yeah, right. She knocked down with her hand the soap dispenser, and it fell on the floor. She doesn't know that I'm there. Like, she did not see me. I'm behind the door, and I think I was just walking down the hallway. And she says, "Oh, I'm so clumsy." She said, "Okay, so to me, that is, I can't." I was like, "Oh my God!" We don't say that. I don't actually even use that word ever. And so I went in there and I said, "Oh, Sasha, that's okay. Everyone drops things. I drop things. Daddy drops things. Things happen. It doesn't. It's not. You're not clumsy. You're magnificent, and you are the essence of God, and you love, and you." I mean, and I go into my whole thing, right? Because I gotta fix the situation right then and there. And so that's it. I don't even know if she really got it, really what I was saying, but it doesn't matter because I know the seeds are being I plant these seeds.
Yes.
And maybe they can't really verbalize these things right now because they're so young. But I tell you, if you ask them who they are, I'm like, "Who are you?" "I am God. And I'm love." They know this. They see these things.
They do. They know that.
It's there.
But as you were saying, that you don't say the word clumsy at home, but they're learning it from television, from school, at friends' houses. They're picking that up somewhere. And a conscious parent is always paying attention to what our children are saying so that we can redirect them out of that ego mindset that is very punishing. It makes us feel bad when we operate from our ego. We're always making ourselves wrong to keep us in this chase of getting more to improve ourselves. But you're redirecting her to remember that everybody makes mistakes. It is an error. It can be corrected. It's no big deal.
Yeah, I don't want her just to associate that with who she is, and that is her identity that she. I mean, it's so
beautiful.
But also that I want to say, with a lot of this processes, the other thing that I'm working on right now is forgiveness and forgiving yourself for, thinking with the wrong mind, and it happens, I don't want to say all the time, but it happens. And so not like you said, we think we did something wrong, and then you beat yourself over, with a brick over the head for the next 3 months, and that kind of stuff. No, that's no good. And so recognizing that and forgiving yourself that you were in the wrong mind and choosing again, that's also one of the practices that I'm actively practicing. Because if you don't clean that slate, then you kind of, just build on that. And then you can't really, the next time something happens, you have this baggage from the past, before. So it helps you just kind of clean that. And truly, I'm just realizing that we're not wrong. We're amazing. We're perfect. And we just, all that magnificent, like you said. And that is just our wrong mind because we were trained from the past to, to do these things. And so it's not who we are. Therefore, we really don't have a reason to beat ourselves over these things that we make mistakes with.
Absolutely. And as we're learning to be who we are, we're discovering that, the source of all that is whatever you want to call it. In my guidance, I've been told to call it GESL, which is an acronym for God is the source of the energy of love, GSEL, because the word God has been polluted. It's been tainted. It's been used to hurt people, to beat people up. So I love it that in one of my guidance visualizations, I was told to call it GESL, and I love it. So the teachings of A Course in Miracles are letting us know that we are the light, that we are the brilliance, we are the reason God expresses itself and can experience itself. So you and I get to have this conversation because God through me gets to speak to God through you, and God through you gets to receive as well as I get to receive you on this side. So that's why the Bible teaches, when you get into Christianity and other beautiful more mystical teachings, tell us that when two or more are gathered, there is love. So the Course in Miracles is letting us know that we need others to be able to create that holy relationship, that connection that allows for communion. We come into union where I get to experience you being God and I receive it as a gift for me, which is what unconditional love is. No conditions on what you're doing for me to love you. That creates that moment of oneness between humans. Of course, between a human and an animal, or an animal and an animal, between us and a sunset. And as you are discovering that you are that presence of love, that you are that light, and that the work for us is to come to love everybody, to come into that connection, you're doing that with your children, and that's easier. How is all of this impacting you and your parents? Now that you're the one in the middle with an awareness that there was unconscious parenting when you grew up, now you're shifting to conscious parenting your children. How are you reconciling that with your upbringing, because it was primarily unconscious?
Yes, it's a great question, because definitely, I could look at it two ways. And sometimes I go down the wrong path and I think, oh, they should have known better, or, why did I have to go through that? And that was total crap, and then I realize this, I'm still working on that one as well. I realized that they are just the same light that we all are.
Exactly.
And even though I think with people who are close to you, it's harder to see that because they're so physical for you, and that's all you see. Like, it's much easier, I think, with the new, like for me now, when I meet people, it's a completely different ballgame. I mean, I just see just the love and light in everyone. It's easy because I don't have any, this past emotions or whatever, all this, ego stories attached to them and all that.
Your mind hasn't defined them.
Right. They like pure, they pure, and they are, and it's all great. And, but yes, people that are in our life for a long time like that. And that's why they say, your parents or like your immediate family are your greatest teachers, because there's a lot of work to be done there. And so, yes, but then the other, and then I return to where I forgive myself for thinking wrong about who they truly are. And then I just see them as the light that they are. And I still have to work on that.
It's a journey.
It's a start, it's bad. I mean, it's yeah, but it's good. It's kind of where it is.
Yes, it's a journey, but that is a beautiful thing that happens. Both of my parents had already passed away by the time I began to become conscious. So the forgiveness work that I did around my parents happened after they were gone. So I never got to tell them. But I went through many, many processes. It took a long time to finally realize that they only taught me what they knew. So I was forgiving myself for being so hard on them, and having so much anger towards the things that I was deprived of as a child. My parents got divorced when I was young. My dad left our family when I was very young. So I carried so much anger and resentment that I have decided, when I become a parent, I'll never treat my children that way. And it wasn't until I began to, be a human, and I was going through a divorce, that I finally forgave my parents for divorcing, because they could only do what they knew to do. So it very healing, this having your children and you wanting to be a role model for them consciously. You can't hold unconscious thoughts about your parents and feel in alignment. You cannot feel that peace inside when you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. You've got to pick God or the ego. You got to pick love or fear, because we don't do both at the same time. We bounce back between the two, but the spiritual journey is about choosing the one. what is actually real. And it is that we are the presence of love, and we got to teach our children that so are they. We don't have the power. Well, we don't have the power to take that knowledge from them, but we have the ability to block it from them by teaching them that we're in charge and they're not.
Yeah.
So as a conscious parent, let's use the last 5 minutes of this conversation. What are things that you have learned, that you are learning now, that you really want to implement so that your kids can grow up not only conscious of who they are, but comfortable in being their own unique selves? Because God does not repeat itself. That's why we don't have the same fingerprints. What are those tips that you're learning from A Course in Miracles or from whatever that you want to make part of what you teach them, you teach your children?
Yes. So definitely to be their authentic self and speak up for themselves, but from the knowing of who they are, not from the ego belief system of wanting stuff, like that kind of stuff, but truly feeling, doing things and being involved in things. And now they're young, but I know time will come where if they don't want to do something, they truly don't want to do something. And I don't know, for this great example, so we signed up my 5-year-old for gymnastics, and she went 2 times, and then she didn't want to go anymore. And I was kind of stuck there. Like, do I force her to go? We made this commitment, and we have to go. But truly, there is no commitment. It's a bunch of 5-year-olds jumping on a trampoline for 45 minutes, right? And I was like, Sasha, we will, if we cancel this, but you free, you can choose that. We can stop this. You have to. This has to be your choice if you're choosing to stop this. And she completely understood, and she says, "Yes, I'm going to stop it." And I had to honor that. Yeah. I could not put my own. You can't quit anything ever. If you made a commitment, you have to follow through. I mean, it's all great in some, but in this particular case, like, I had to just let it be and ask the Holy Spirit for guidance on that one. And I was like, she doesn't want to go. And why can we say that a 5-year-old doesn't know what she wants? I mean, she very much knows what she wants. So that was like really like example that just happened a few weeks ago. And so then being authentic to who they are, know who they are, speak about it and express that to the world. And also, so that's very important. And also to show up as love in every situation and to every person they encounter. The judgment, there is no judgment in their belief system yet, just because they're so young. But I really want that, like, if that comes up, even that's a big one for me, and to get that out there, like, right away, and literally, like, help everyone and be compassionate and loving and just that. And the other thing that I guess that is I just had a thought and I lost it. But so that's kind of them being who they are and being compassionate and love in every situation.
Yeah. And the thing to be able to teach, to be compassionate and to be love in every situation, one of the things that is really challenging as a conscious parent is to teach that we're all equal. And as a parent, I had to let my children know that I was not the boss of them. I told my daughter I was the boss of her when I was unconscious, and she was going to do what I told her to do. And with the boys, it was, I'm not the boss of you. I am your partner. I'm your equal. I know the world a little bit better than you do because I've been out there. So I will share what I know, but ultimately they had to be given permission to make their own decisions, because how else are they going to know they're equal if they don't have the power to override a parental decision? And that is such an important thing to teach our children, because unconscious parenting is always preparing us so that we can do better and not be left behind, not be as bad as the bad people. We want to do better. We want to make more money and not have less money. We want to be successful and not be unsuccessful. So unconscious parenting sorts the world out into hierarchy and wants us to climb up to the top so that we're not at the bottom. that makes for judgments, that makes us very self-conscious about where are we on this hierarchy. And that's how we begin to lose ourselves, because we then begin to want to climb and go to the top. And it's very exhausting to use your energy to control the world, to try to climb to the top, when you don't want to be up there. Maybe that's not what your soul wants. Maybe that's, you don't need the big house to be happy. Maybe you want to be an artist, not an accountant.
Definitely. It's such
not that there's anything wrong with accountants.
Yes, 100%. Yes.
It's an art too.
It's that freedom of choice, and just being like, just having the freedom to choose and not be afraid to say that, and just, yes, that is just, to me, that is such an incredible, gift that we can give them. That, and also, not to get so into, material stuff, and the toys, and all, it's all great and wonderful, that we can, we're abundant and we can get all that, but it's not the, the main thing of their existence, and, so yeah.
Yes, and one of the key things, when not only we're teaching our children that they are loved, that they are an expression of God themselves, and that we're all equal, but as we teach them that we're equal, a kindness and a compassion begins to activate on its own. So like you were saying, your daughters are so young, they don't need to be judging, but once they realize that they're like everybody else, you fell down and hurt your knee, just like that little girl, that little boy hurt when they fell down and hurt their knee. So you want to be kind and compassionate and not call them clumsy because that little boy fell down. So there is so much that shapes us when we are raised by conscious parenting, because it sets us on a path of being able to, like you said, express yourself. So if you're all equal and everybody's expressing themselves, and you're expressing yourself from a recognition of equality, you will be kinder and gentler and not want to make yourself better or lesser than. That will remove the victims and the bullies from this world, because in a sense of equality, there's no better bully and lesser victim to be taken advantage of. And it just changes everything. So you are preparing your girls to enter into the unconscious world of public schools, and but you can do it. You absolutely can do it, because once they're aligned with the truth of who they are inside, they're going to go out there, they're going to be exposed to different things, and they can come home to a consistency where you'll be able to let them know, hey, other people do things differently, but doesn't it feel good to be kind? Doesn't it feel good to be nice? Doesn't it feel good to be peaceful? Doesn't it feel good to share? Doesn't it feel good to know that nothing is lacking? That if you need something, that you can ask somebody for it. You don't have to own it. It doesn't have to be your stuff. You can share. What a gift you're giving to humanity by you doing your own work, by you helping your daughters, and by forgiving, your parents and yourself. That's beautiful. I'm so grateful that we've had this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, forgiveness, definitely. That's I'm working with that a lot as well these days.
Beautiful. Well, I have some future Align with Laina coming up. I won't have one next week. I've been a little bit inconsistent with offering these, but I will have somebody here on the 14th of May, Kim Sumlin, who is a wonderful life coach, and she's gone through her own transformation. And then after that, I will have another amazing lady. I'll tell you a little bit about Isabel when we do the call with Kim, so that it's fresh in your mind. But thank you so much, Maria, for being so transparent and sharing what you've been going through, and helping people realize that when we feel that sense of there's got to be more to life than just chasing the corporate world or chasing something outside of ourselves, and we come inside and we begin to realize that there is a magnificent being in us that has been waiting for us to acknowledge it and give it permission to express itself, we will become like those little children who will be joyful and happy. And what is really incredible that happens to every single one of us that does the work, and this is not easy work. We are going to go through a dark night of the soul. There is a dissolving of our old identity. It is painful and uncomfortable to realize that you're magnificent, that you're powerful beyond measure. When we do that work, we begin to tap into something that motivates us and moves us and propels us and excites us and really gives us strength and vitality. And it makes us useful because we return to being like little kids, that we're no longer concerned about what other people think. We're just moving from the inside. And we leave the world a better place because we become givers of love, not takers. We become compassionate people, not judgmental people. And what's going to create heaven on earth is for people to be joyful, because when you're happy, you don't have to hurt anybody else. You are happy and you share that happiness, which is the purpose that God gave us when God created us. Happy people know that everything that they need is inside of them and they get to share it with no conditions. That is what true love is all about. We free the world to be itself. So thank you, Maria, for doing that work. And thank you for teaching your daughters.
Can I just say this one thing that came recently into so Wayne Dyer had this phrase that he used to say, light in you is all I see. And he used to literally, when he would see people and meet people, like the first thing he would say in his mind, that's the phrase that he would say, and that it would so just transform his experience. And I've heard that many times, like years ago, but then recently I read it again and I was like, wow, like what a great way to just like, boom, like it's there. It's easy to say, it's right there. And I use that personally now. And I just think that it's a really cool, like a tool that you can go to, light and use all I see. And it's just very been profound for me in seeing people in a different life and just loving everyone and being super peaceful and
yeah. So I imagine you would recommend people come to our Course in Miracles class on Tuesday nights at Unity North in Marietta.
Yes, I bring a lot. Yes, I really love it. I'm there every Tuesday, and I couldn't be without it.
You're inspiring other people to come, so that's a lot of fun. You're helping grow our community.
My life, 100%, and I think that anyone who is looking for, just to know who they truly are and they feel inspired, that's a great place to start.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for being here. And thank you to those of you who have been watching. We've had a wonderful audience, sweet comments. So we look forward to having you participate with us again at the next Align with Laina, and look on my Facebook page because I will post when the next ones are. Thanks a bunch. And remember, we really are magnificent. All we need to do is be what we were created to be. Thanks, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.